We're live.
And we are preparing to stream the meeting. So carry on talking.
So good evening. Here we are.
Indeed. Last time then. Dave, how much do we remember? We went to look at the crime scene of the emissary's apartment to see what happened there.
I always love the way that you ask me and then you just answer the question for me. So you say, how much do we remember, Dave? And then you just carry on talking. Which is fine.
You go on then. You go first then if you want. You tell us what happened last time. What happened last time, Dave?
We investigated the emissary's pad, didn't we?
Yes. I've said that already though.
Did you? I wasn't listening to that, so I was too busy formulating a witty remark.
Shame that didn't come off the door, but never mind.
Well, I was laughing in my head.
That's
yes. So thanks, Tom, for that patronising little moment there. Where are my notes? So, what leads did we find? We found a lot of blood. We found the walls and the floors crushed in a way as if they were sort of sonically blasted, I think we found.
Yes, we found some bowls which are commonly used in transformation dance ritual of Alarm's Temple.
Alarm's Temple, which is my mother was connected to.
Yeah. We found some antique books. I can't remember exactly what books they were, but some antique books.
I think they were related to the ritual, if I remember rightly.
I think they were not just things related to rituals, but lots of lots of early works from right across the verse.
Okay.
We looked at the security video. The security video had been disabled before the attackers arrived, but the last visitor before the security cameras were disabled was Councillor Cassar.
Yeah.
Who was an extremely senior person in the Zenithian Hegemony.
Hegemony.
I can't say Hegemony.
Oh yeah, but what about the hegemony? I mean, that's the Hegemony.
The Hegemony. Yeah, I think he was in the Hegemony as well.
What, you're saying we've got both the Hegemony and the Hegemony against us?
Yes, it's that bad. I believe so.
Sorry.
No, you're not.
It's been a long day. Right, okay. Yes, so we do feel the need at some point, I guess, to talk to Councillor Cassar.
Yeah, we also pulled a bullet out of the wall, which we were going to go and get analysed. So it looks like a kind of homemade silenced vibro round.
Yeah.
But we were going to find our local ammo expert and get it analysed, see if they could tell us anything about its source.
Yeah. I think that was most of it, was it? We did quite a lot of sort of fruitless investigation into other avenues that didn't really give us anything. So I guess we're left with going and interviewing the councillor, which might be a last resort thing, possibly, rather than a first resort thing.
Yes.
Just to remind you of one thing you did before, well, as you left the site, you followed a trail of blood. I think, Dave, you did a good observation of that. And it ended right on the edge of this floor of Coriolis, heading off into the ducting and behind the scenes.
Yeah. Now, was there a reason why we chose not to follow that trail through the ducts?
It looked reasonably dangerous, but I don't remember you specifically doing that. I just remember that was kind of one of the last things you did. Yeah. And then we ran out of time.
Yeah, I'm not sure we discussed whether we should just try and follow them through the ducts.
I guess that's, yeah. We might need to take a packed lunch, I guess, if we do that. Just thinking we might be in there for a while. Yeah, and did we?
Oh, the other thing. Sorry, the thing I vaguely remember you saying you were going to do next is you haven't yet. Or did you check out the video at the central surveillance bit?
We did go and look at that.
We did, because I was just about to say that I think, didn't we see something that was reminiscent of the people that we followed or that we thought,
the
fake guardsmen.
Fake guardsmen, yes.
So we're thinking it's the fake guardsmen that have pulled off this heist.
Yeah, that may be the last thing you did. Actually.
On
Put it to a duct, and then you
orders.
went to the other thing.
Yeah,
And
that sounds about right.
And we became better friends with Akuba after a little argument with her. Because
she said something a bit racist about
she respected your casual racism.
And she slightly warmed to you in that regard.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you call it.
As I said, it's not racism; it's bigotry. Please get it right. Come on.
Jingoism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know whether you call you a friend, but the other realization you had is you kind of realized you were both slightly being set up to being able to talk to the Councillor, the Zenithian Hegemonic ambassador, without offending anybody.
Yeah, we are the low-life scum who are expendable, who are brought in to do all the things that nobody else feels socially they can do.
Yeah.
We can go and break all those social barriers because it's okay, because they'll slot us on the way home.
No one will miss us.
Dave, where's your mic?
It's here.
Do you want to go a little bit closer? It's a little bit of
Am I a bit quiet?
A room noise on that, and
okay. I have had the window open because it's been stiflingly hot in here.
That sounds better already, though.
Okay, it must be the window is open. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
So, you've got a bunch of choices, as you have said. Where do you want to head next?
I think if we go and talk to this Councillor Kassar, he'll just deny everything.
Yeah.
Any involvement in any untowards activity. And to be fair, we haven't got any evidence apart from the fact, the coincidence of him being there just before.
I mean, we could go and talk to them just on that basis.
Yeah, as a witness rather than a suspect.
Yeah, you're the last person that we're aware of who saw the emissary before he was abducted.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually.
So do we want to do that before we get the bullet checked or afterwards?
Let's go and get the bullet checked first, because that gives us something. It might give some more ammo into our discussions and questioning of.
Nicely done. Gives us more ammo.
So that means heading down and out to the ring to the ozone parlor where I think you had a contact.
We were intending on, if you weren't going to give us one, we were going to use our friend in every port talent to have a good friend in that trade.
Okay.
Presumably, we've got no problem getting back up here when we want to come and see the councillor.
Well, no, the councillor's on the floor above here, or a floor above here. The councillor's palace is on what's called the Trer floor, THERR, which is one floor below the restaurant.
Right.
Which is on the very top, the apex of Coriolis.
Presumably, do we have free access to these levels now whilst we're running this investigation?
A mention of the judge's name should get you where you want to go.
Yeah, okay.
Possibly a call to the adjudicator will enable that.
Well, I'm wondering, it's unlikely that Kassar is going to say, yes, come on, have a chat straight away. We're going to need to make an appointment. So why don't we get Akuba to make the appointment for us whilst we are going back down Coriolis to check out the bullet?
Yep, that's not a bad idea. She'll do that. Now she likes us. You anyway.
Okay, so who's going to make that call?
To Akuba?
Mm-hmm.
I think you should, Oshain, I think.
Is she not with us now then?
No, she left you
right, okay.
At the end of the...
At the altar?
No, I sort of after... she didn't come with you, for example, when you were following the blood spatter. She'd gone towards the end of your time in the house.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll put a call through to her then.
Okay, she picks up presses the button or whatever, or
the equivalent.
Winks or whatever it is on the technology she has inside her helmet, and you, if you've got any sort of visual representation on your communicator, all you see are her eyes, like in a sort of Sergio Leone thing with a bit of Zenithian makeup on. And she says, yes,
And what beautiful and impressive eyes they are.
they are quite deep and beautiful. Yes, you could fall into them, but they could also kill you with a look.
Judicator, Akuba. One of our avenues of investigation is clearly to investigate and or interview any witnesses that might be relevant or pertinent to what happened to the emissary just before he was so rudely abducted. Clearly, one of those is Councillor Cassar. So, would you be able, leaning on the judge's power and influence, to effect an appointment so we could respectfully discuss with her anything that she might have seen or heard in the immediate run-up to the abduction that might help the investigation?
Johar Cassar is male.
Okay. Would I have known that as a player, as a character?
I think probably. But
I'll stop insulting him by calling him a woman then.
However, I will send word that you're coming.
Well, we assume that we will need an appointment to see him because he's such an important and busy person.
Doesn't quite work like that. You will be you'll be having to visit the ambassadorial palace. It's called the Palace of the Hegemony. It's on the chair floor. And when you enter therein, there will be, I believe, and she tapped something on her thing, a new hostess called Vivera Ariadnes. And she will make arrangements for you. But I will warn her that you are on your way. Do you have an estimated time of arrival?
So we have to go there to talk to this person to make an appointment to see the council. We can't.
Go there and wait a short time, and I'm sure the ambassador will see you.
So, well, if we go directly there, from here, how long will it take us to get there?
From here to there, won't take you very long at all. It's like one floor up. If you're going back to the ozone parlor, the ozone plaza, it will be a couple of hours max.
So, what do you reckon, Tone? If we go straight there, we might miss out on some clues we get from our contact. But if we don't go straight there, do we disrespect Cassar by not considering him to be the most important lead in our?
Possibly. Plus the fact we can go and see our ammunition expert, but he might not necessarily immediately give us an answer. We might need to leave the bullet with him. And
yeah. Okay, let's go straight there.
Let's go and see Cassar straight away.
So Akuba, we can be there presently. We can be there in 15 minutes.
Very well. I shall send word you're coming. It is not on my behalf.
It's on the judge's behalf, of course.
It would be better if you didn't particularly mention the judge either.
So if we're questioned as to why we are investigating this...
You've been commissioned to investigate it, will be fine.
Won't the councillor consider our reticence to tell him who is charged with this investigation to be...
If you have to mention the judge, then mention the judge, but it may not come up in conversation. If it doesn't, don't force the issue. Oh, I have some other news for you.
About our impending deaths.
You're asking about the blood samples.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, as I think we were all of us expecting, there are 6 different samples of blood. 5 of them, the indications are that they are from the system of Zalos. I'm sure you're aware that is the home system of the Order of the Pariah. It appears to belong to 3 males and 2 females. And
scum.
These are obviously now going to be our main suspects in the investigation. The 6th profile is the reason for the delay. This has come off the handprint on the prayer rug. It reads as Mirren blood, but it has an incredible regenerative rate, many times that of the Karin humanites from Marfik. You're aware of the Karin humanites from Marfik?
Oh, of course, yeah.
I can see your faces suggest that
Well,
you are not aware.
With a culture roll of...
if you want to make a culture roll, I'll let you do that so you don't embarrass yourself. Go on.
It's not great, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll do it as well.
I'm not going to push it. I go, oh, yes, I know. Read all about them in Time magazine. Yeah.
I get one success on my culture roll.
I've got no fucking clue, Brendan.
You are aware that the Karin humanites and Marfik have incredibly fast healing, Tony.
Fast hearing?
No, healing. But we think the data's been partially corrupted somehow. We can't even code it whether it's male or female.
Are we suspecting that this is actually the emissary's blood?
Is that a question you're asking of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it may be the case, yes.
So the emissary is actually a Mirren. Okay. Who knew, eh?
Well, it has indicators it's a mirror, but it has much else that is, has been confusing for our analysts, which is why it's taken this amount of time.
Okay.
The other five bloods, sorry. Beyond suggesting that they're...
Sorry, you'll have to relay this to your colleague.
Yeah, sorry. Ask the Zolossian...
I think I'm about to ask the same question that you're anyway.
Yeah, is there any more identifying...
I will relay the question.
Can we identify them more specifically than just Zolossians, male and female? Is there any more specific identification that we can get from there?
Do we not have a DNA database somewhere that we could draw their identity from?
Exactly.
Of everybody who comes through Coriolis?
Yeah, why not?
The entire population of the Third Horizon or some such? No, we don't.
It's a big miss, that is.
Yeah,
if I was in charge, that's the first thing I'd do. Get one of those going.
The Zenithian Hegemony are desperately trying to record the bloodlines of all the Zenithian families, and that's taken them something like 60 years. I'm not going to waste their time on some bloody Zolossians.
That's fair. Who would waste their time on the bloody first come? That's a fair point. Yeah. Okay.
Is that all then?
So if I'm on the phone, I'll then go to Yaquob. Nah.
Are there any other questions, or shall I get on the line to the emissary? Not the emissary, the ambassador.
Tell us what you know about where the emissary is. You could call it.
We have a new lead. All of a sudden.
It's a GM slip of the tongue, not a character slip of the tongue.
Is that a GM huge slip of the tongue?
No. No significance to that at all.
So is there anything else? So do we have a record of Zolossians who come on board Coriolis, just like an immigration record?
No.
No, okay.
This is a thriving city.
You can still have immigration records in a thriving city.
Yeah.
Especially for first come. Especially for first come.
There's ships coming into the net. There's ships coming down to the Neotra port.
The first come are immigrants coming in here, taking our jobs. We need a wall or, something, or a wall.
We have got a wall of some kind, haven't we? Because otherwise all the air would escape.
I'd like to point out, although the first come left Al-Arda after we did, they arrived here generations before we did. So however misconceived they are, they believe themselves to be the natives and us the Nithians to be the immigrants.
Your key point there is misconceived.
However misconceived.
What did they do with the Third Horizon when they were here? It took the Zenithians coming along to revitalize the horizon, to get trade going again, to get prosperity.
I'm sorry, I haven't got time for philosophical conversation.
No, I'm not really. Yeah.
So you're heading up
Fair
to
enough.
the palace.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes.
Okay. So as I said before, the Palace of the Hegemony is up. It's located on the Ter floor, and that's almost at the top of the spire. It's quite a lot of space. It's a bit like, the background behind me. This is the floor you've been on.
Yeah, I remember.
But it's similar sort of
that
thing
from
where
last
they've
time.
got big holograms up there. The holograms are a little bit different. Rather than this sort of countryside sky that they've got here, you've got a view as though you're down on Kua in the city, in the sun-drenched jungles around the city of the conglomerate.
I guess
it's
Yaquob is familiar with that because that's where he came from.
Yes.
Well, you're not particularly familiar with this view because this view is from the very top of the monolith, and the monolith is where the Zenithians' highest families hang out. So you've probably been, up a few floors of the monolith, but I don't suppose you've been to the very top. And
as far as they let tourists up.
Yes. And the in the sky, very pointedly, at sort of the apex of the sky, is a little image of Coriolis Station itself. The Palace of the Hegemony is a whitewashed building, about huge, sort of 8 sides. At each apex of the corners of the octagon are 8 icon towers. Have any of you, none of you are sort of architects or anything like that, but it looks so beautiful that even if you failed your culture roll, you'd realize that the symmetry of the lines and the proportions of the different parts of the building are just right. Actually, yeah, if you want to, do you want to make a culture roll, each of you?
I'm going to try. Nope.
Nope.
I think I had all my 6s last time.
Right. Okay. So moving on.
That wonderful bit of plot moving forward information that we now won't get.
So it's landscaped around the palace with all sorts of kind of little islands and streams. And each of those islands, Tony, you'd recognize they're kind of a bit of native Kuan vegetarian from the different regions of the Kuan service. Each dotted around there. You walk through those gardens, past all those different little mini Kuas to an entrance, which is on a space station. Pretty impressive. It's marble from Kua. It's 30 meters wide staircase leading up to the palace. It's a bit over the top, frankly. It's talking about, this is an organization that can lift marble off Kua to a space station. And this amount of marble as well.
For no reason other than show.
Yeah, and show mostly for show. But also the cost of it, it's expensive down on Kura as well. On the steps are the Peacock Guard in their garish, colourful uniforms that are well, again, be quite familiar.
That's
to,
not actual peacocks guarding.
No, they're called the Peacock Guard because they've got these very colourful uniforms.
They're not guarding peacocks.
Have you not listened to my my piece on the Zenithian hegemony that I did on the podcast?
Yes, but
I don't know why I talk about.
Didn't memorize it.
Well, why didn't you memorize it? It's all gold dust. Everything that Dave and I do on the podcast is gold. Anyway,
especially when Matthew can remember my name.
Yeah.
Sorry, who are you?
Okay, so then you go into a large audience hall. Well, sorry, no, you go through a security corridor. Are any of you carrying any weapons?
Yeah.
Yes. We're carrying our fully licensed weapons.
You're politely asked to deposit them in the correct receptacles there are in this.
I think I'll probably do that.
Does that include my entirely self-defense baton?
Yes.
Which has got entirely self-defense baton written on it.
You won't have any need of it in the palaces, and if
let's hope, eh? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, we will comply.
And so then you go into this hall, which is a huge open room with high ceilings covered in paintings and mosaics. Again, more flower beds with more flora from different parts of the Kuan jungles. You are greeted by the woman that the adjudicator mentioned, Vivera Ariadnes. She welcomes you to the ambassador's residence and says, if you can make yourself comfortable, I will have somebody bring you some kawa.
We are honoured.
Thank you. Have you eaten long ago? How hungry are you?
I'm starving. I'm starving like Marvin.
Not sure turning up and just stuffing our face with the food they offer us as a courtesy is necessarily the best way to endear ourselves to the.
If they're offering us a light refreshment, then I will accept. I will politely accept.
Must have been. She says you must have been very busy.
We have indeed been quite busy. Yes, absolutely.
When did we last sleep? What time of day is it now? Because this is the second.
Well, I think you spent most of the morning. You went for a morning appointment with the
judge.
Did we eat there? We went to that restaurant to meet.
You had some.
We had some.
Had some sweetmeats and things there. Not a big meal.
A light continental breakfast.
Some stuffed dates and.
So we probably haven't eaten since then because we basically pretty much went straight to investigate the emissaries.
Yes, and you've spent. I would imagine. So you over lunchtime. Yeah.
We probably are a bit peckish.
Actually. So you've investigated. You were upstairs in the restaurant. She says.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to
very fine
to visit that
there.
For the.
You're quite privileged to get an opportunity to eat there. I understand at this time of the orbit, it's a very beautiful sights and tables are very hard to come by.
Yeah, it was indeed very impressive. Most impressive, yes.
Yeah. She looks you up and down and realizes that you'd be impressed by all sorts of really quite mundane and dull.
Pretty much anything.
But she hardly lets that show on her face and says, and since then you said you were where?
We've been working.
Working. And what do you do?
We are investigators.
Investigators. Then. Not Coriolis Guard.
No,
not Coriolis.
We're not Coriolis Guard.
Not judicators, obviously. Private investigators, is that?
Independent investigators, yes.
Independent investigators is chasing after people's wives and husbands and videographing illicit affairs, I imagine.
A wide variety of tasks and jobs and objectives, yes.
Yes, well, admittedly, 90% of it is taking photographs of people having affairs. But
your objectives bring you here to the ambassador's residence to see
Councillor Kessar.
The ambassador himself.
Indeed.
If he will honour us with a
Of course, the ambassador is always willing to talk to the people of Coriolis.
Well,
if I could ask you to sit down here, we will bring you some more kawa. Unless you'd like, I don't know, honey wine. Would you like some baklava?
Baklava would be very, very pleasant. Thank you. We are hungry, but don't need honeyed wine. We don't drink on whilst we're working.
Well,
do you have any Ferrero Rocher? I've heard the ambassadors quite like
no. Matt, just bin him off this thing now for that comment. Or get rid of him, or I'm leaving. I'm going to rage quit for that. You're not the only one who can rage quit, James.
I'm afraid the Zenithian Hegemony have the most glorious ambassadorial palace in all of Coriolis, but even we can't afford such luxury. They're only born the legends of old Al-Arda, she says.
We have to make do with milk tray.
Yes, well, or baklava. You make yourselves comfortable. I shall make the necessary arrangements, and I'm sure the ambassador won't keep you waiting long.
Well, much obliged. I wonder what her definition of long might be.
I'm just trying to see how it goes here. Give me a moment. Eventually, you've had an opportunity to eat some baklava, but it's not too long before you're taken to an audience chamber at the top of one of the icon towers of the palace. And on the way, you're assured that you will be able to speak freely and off the record with the ambassador. The room where the ambassador Kassar receives you is exquisitely furnished, with dark draperies covering the walls. There are servants in black robes posted around the chamber, almost invisible against the dark background. Each of them carries a small ornate pot containing a jungle vine with red petals that match the servant's makeup exactly. A red line running from the forehead to the chin. The hollow above you projects the night sky over the monolith, and the ambassador sits on a crimson divan at the back of the room, bathed in starlight, but shadowed by a dark figure standing behind him.
Dark figure standing behind him.
Yes, let me just see if I can
that's some sort of bodyguard.
Bodyguard.
This is the ambassador. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Let me just make that. Can you still see that?
We can.
Yeah. So that's the ambassador, and he's there. He bids you welcome and asks you to take a seat. The servants place their vine. Tell you what, Tony, as you're looking at the servants go about their business, you can make a culture roll if you like.
Culture roll, okay. I get no successes on that roll.
Okay. They put their pots on little shelves that are heretofore invisible, but they sort of now leave these vines apparently floating in the space. And they instead pick up bowls of fruits and nuts, which you recognize from Duran native, some more baklava, and there's a sweet hot wine, which they will bring you. And then, as just before the meeting sort of officially starts, the dark figure you saw, give me a moment, steps into the light briefly, and it is this woman. she introduces herself as Lenove Astir, cultural attaché, and then steps back into the shadows. Do you want to take a culture roll, please, on both of you can do that to see whether you know about the Astir family?
I was going to say, do I recognize that sigil on her armor?
Have a go.
Nope. No success so far.
No successes there either. 3 1s.
No, well, luckily ones don't count for damage in this system, not yet a while anyway.
They might somewhere else.
So yeah, so you don't particularly reckon, obviously she's from an elite unit of some sort, from one of the higher ranking bloodlines of the Hegemony, but you don't know your Hegemony well enough.
So from an elite unit, she just looks like she's a fighter of some kind. She's not a.
She's a cultural attaché. She introduced herself.
So yeah, but from how she's dressed and how she carries herself, she looks like she's a
soldier.
Yes, exactly. She's a cultural attaché. So the ambassador sits on his divan next to you and says, "Speak freely."
Well, thank you, Ambassador, for seeing us at such short notice. We're private investigators. We've been commissioned to investigate the unfortunate disappearance of the emissary.
A tragic loss to the whole horizon.
Indeed, indeed.
Is that sincere, Matthew?
Yes, as far as you can tell. Do you want to
Can I make an observation roll?
Would that be an observation roll? How do we test manipulation versus manipulation? No, you make a manipulation roll, I think.
Can I as well?
That's not so good.
Okay.
Well, I have 6 dice in manipulation.
Okay, no successes for me.
I get 2 successes.
Give me a moment. What is manipulation based on? I can't remember what's...
Empathy.
Empathy.
Okay. 2 successes you got.
Yes.
I might spend a darkness point and reroll. You think he's hiding something. He's maybe not that sincere, Tony.
Okay.
But of course, ambassadors, probably sincerity is the last thing they do. I am sure that you are wanting to talk to me about my visit to the emissary. It may be that apart from his attackers, I was the last person to see him alive.
Indeed, it appears that may well be the case.
I can give you the time I visited, obviously, and the time I left, but I am afraid I cannot divulge the content of the meeting other than to say that I went on my father's request.
And who exactly, do we know who his father is? And
we do know who his father is. He is the son of, I've forgotten his name now. Captain Kassar, who is the sort of leader of the Hegemony.
Ambassador, you will forgive us for being blunt, and you asked us to speak our minds and speak truth in this august chamber with you. Naturally, you will understand that as 2 independent investigators who are striving to understand and find out what's happened to the emissary for the good of the horizon and the good of all true Zenithians, you'll understand why we're disappointed with that answer, and we will find that unsatisfying. I hope you please excuse my blunt language.
I'm sure that you are used to living with disappointment.
That doesn't make it
The
any
warmest smile.
That doesn't make it any easier to accept particularly when the fate of the horizon is possibly at hand. The emissary is such an important figure. For someone to walk in and abduct him in this way is one of the most, if not the most momentous what am I looking for? Event in my lifetime. So again, you can understand why I might be less inclined to swallow and accept the disappointment in this occasion.
Well, I'm afraid, swallow it, you're going to have to. I cannot divulge the captain's request to the ambassador. Is there anything else? I will give you, of course, times that I left, and you'll see that I had nothing to do with the attack itself.
Well, whilst you're...
Clearly, we would not suggest such a thing. Anyway, and if you can't...
I was about to, frankly, but...
okay, I'll take it away then. I was just going to ask.
That's right.
You can't divulge the content of the discussion you had with the emissary,
no.
But if there's anything else you can tell us, anything that you noticed while you were there that was out of the ordinary, did the emissary seem distracted, upset, or out of sorts in any way, shape, or form to indicate that there was something concerning him? Was there anything that you noticed in his apartment or around that suggested his security was compromised, or anything that you felt was out of place or slightly unusual? Even if it seems completely trivial to you, anything that you can tell us could be helpful.
No, I don't think there's anything. Tony, since you were successful in your role, you feel he's slightly on edge, trying to mask it, but he makes an act of, sort of going, did I see anything unusual? But he eventually says, no, I don't think there was. Nothing I can think of. At which point...
how well did you know the emissary? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, of course.
How often did you meet him?
Quite often.
So did he
as you might imagine, the council meets regularly, and our meetings are long, and there are subcommittees and things like that. And we have welcomed the emissary a year ago, or almost a year ago. He says, what a shame that the celebrations of his arrival will be
did he seem his
I'm so glad that all the resources, not just the guard and the adjudicators, but even shall we say contractors such as yourself are being mustered to see if we can find the emissary before the cyclade. However, yes, I meet him quite a lot. Sorry,
given your knowledge and of the emissary, then did he seem his normal self when you met him on that last occasion?
Yes, entirely. He's
Did he welcome the request?
At the best of times.
Did he welcome the request from your father, and did he agree to it?
As we've said before, the exact nature of the meeting is not something that I can divulge. The cultural attaché leans forward a little bit and whispers in his ear.
Any chance of observation to hear what she says?
No, I don't think so. I think she's good at being discreet. He holds up a couple of fingers and listens, and then says, I'm reminded, of course, that you are probably wanting to ask about the failure of the security system that happened, possibly, it must be said, during the time that I was there.
If you have any insights into that, that would be very welcome.
He kind of frowns at the cultural attaché, and you can tell he's really embarrassed by this. So, well, I think if I'm honest and candid, and believe me, in matters with which I can be candid, I will be candid with you. And if I am candid, then I think I am at fault in that regard.
In what respect?
You're responsible for the breakdown in the security measures around his property.
I fear so.
Could you
I can
elaborate?
I deactivated the alarms using a tag given to me.
By whom?
By whom?
Again, make a manipulation roll, Tony.
Can I help? Give him a dice.
Give him a dice, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I get 2 successes. It's worth pushing.
I'm going to try and re-roll that
Yeah,
again.
why not, Tone? Go for it. Let's get this.
He
is
is lying so badly today.
Go for it, Tone.
I'm going to push as well.
You're going to push as well?
Yeah.
I'll have that back again then. Thank you very much.
Okay, I don't get any more successes. I get two successes.
So he says, now, you can imagine we are an old family and we protect our reputation, shall we say.
And using this tag was protecting your reputation in what way?
We had been, I had been made, and he looks at the cultural attaché. I'd been made aware of a threat to the family, and I was, to be honest, blackmailed. And
this is potentially vital information, Ambassador, which we are very grateful for you passing over to us. So who is blackmailing you and for what purpose? And how can we help you resolve that situation?
Again, the cultural attaché whispers in his ear and passes something to him. And he says, well, to be honest, what I'm about to tell you is only my perception of what went on. But, and I'm sure, people are cunning. This is, when I say that I was threatened by one of the waiters at Alcamar's, I do not honestly believe that he was one of the waiters at Alcamar's. But that is what was presented to me. And I will say he had a shaved face and head. And obviously and he looks again at the cultural attaché, our agents have not been able to identify or track down the waiter afterwards.
And this waiter was acting on behalf of whom? Presumably
persons unknown.
But you must presumably have some suspicion as to who was behind the blackmail.
What form did the blackmail take?
Again, a threat was put in the direction of the family, and it was felt that for the security of the family and the security of the bloodline, we should comply. Now, I see the error of my ways now, obviously. I didn't realize that the intended threat was against the emissary.
So was the form of the blackmail then specifically, or the task that you were blackmailed into doing, this was specifically to go to the emissary's house and use this tag that you were given to disable his security?
So it would seem, yes.
Where did you receive the tag? Who handed it to you?
It was given to me by the waiter.
At Alcamar's.
And presumably this is over a number of meetings.
Well, the threat was identified to us. The meeting was held at Alcamar's. I was expecting another guest, and somewhat surprised by the fact that the meeting was with one of the waiters. Of course, to all intents and purposes, it did not look like a meeting.
And can we be reassured that this threat to you and your family has now been removed, or do we run the risk that you will be further blackmailed?
I think in the light of everything that's happened, I can't say that the threat has been entirely removed, but I can say that if we are contacted again, we will, maybe it's not appropriate, in fact, to talk to the guard or the adjudicators. If I make you this promise now, Mr. Oshain.
Ispartha is my name.
Ispartha.
Oshain Ispartha.
Mr. Ispartha,
I'm taking out my card and I'll put it on the table in front of him.
The cultural attaché leans forward to pick it up, inspects it with more attention than you've ever seen anybody inspect one of your business cards before, and then shows it to the ambassador and then pockets it. Well, we shall get in touch with you directly if the, shall we say blackmailer, for that is what he is, if the blackmailer makes their presence known to us again.
Did you have any means by informing the blackmailer that you had done your part of the bargain, or were they, do you think, just monitoring what you were doing?
Wouldn't be able to say. I'm a man of my word. I assume that if I tell the man that this is what I'm going to do, he will assume that I do it at the appointed time.
How long before your visit to the emissary did you have this meeting with the waiter in your France?
Only a couple of days.
And did he give you a specific time when you needed to go to visit the emissary?
It seems he knew that I was about to make the visit on that day, at that time already.
So clearly, whoever he is, they have some inside intelligence as to your movements and your activities. Have you done a full security?
My diary is generally one of public record.
And were you going to see the emissary on that day anyway? You had a separate reason. Did you say this request from your father to the emissary? Yeah,
and if we can avoid talking about that, I would be very grateful. It's not pertinent to the case.
Discretion is is a key hallmark of the work that Ispartha and Nassar investigators do. But clearly,
I'm told that 90% of your work is tracking down errant lovers.
We have a range of tasks and activities that we take on. Naturally, life being as expensive as it is, particularly here on Coriolis, we have to take the jobs to pay the bills. But
90% of the jobs are such that I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that you will be aware of the varied nature of the term discretion. If you'll let me be discreet in my way, I will trust you to be discreet in your way.
My point, Ambassador, was that our investigation may go more smoothly and more quickly and resolve your problems more quickly if you place a little bit of trust in our discretion.
You may feel that the content of that discussion was not relevant to the case at hand, but that it may be the case that it actually is, since you don't, you've said yourself, you don't know necessarily the motivations of your blackmailers.
The cultural attaché leans forward again and whispers to him. And again, he puts up a couple of fingers and listens. And says, I'm reminded, of course, yes, I trust you. And for that very trust, I am able to give you a piece of evidence. This is, and he produces the tag. This is the device, the tag, which I was asked to use on the security system. Obviously, as you might expect, our own agents have looked at it very closely. It has not given them any evidence, particularly into the nature, but it may prove useful to you. But honestly, that is as much as I know about the case.
I would still like to stress that if you were able to trust us a little, particularly if you engaged us in your service, we have a very competitive rates, which are on the back of the card I gave you. We would be entirely client confidentiality, and we'd be able to wrap up this problem much more quickly and more effectively. And
I think I have need of your services, he says. He looks up again at the cultural attaché, and she looks at you with piercing eyes. And then gives a little shake of her head.
Well, it would be a real pity if something bad comes out and it damages your interests because we were too slow in the investigation to chase something down because we didn't have the whole picture.
That sounds remarkably like the sort of threat that the Zenithian hegemony are very adept at making ourselves.
I'm not making a threat against you. That would be ridiculous and entirely inappropriate. I am 100% behind the Zenithian hegemony and the Zenithian culture in the horizon. I support what you are doing. I am genuinely keen to help you. I'm not here trying to threaten or rip you off.
It sounds very generous. But I think we do have closer bloodlines who, to be honest, we put more trust in.
I totally get that, but your closer bloodlines are closer bloodlines. We are, in many ways, entirely unrelated to you. We can act on your behalf without any concern coming back to you or your blood. If another operative with a closer bloodline was to be compromised, that might cause you significant trouble. If we're compromised, we are little men from low down in Coriolis. What harm does it cause you? I'm trying really hard, Matt.
Okay, do you want to make a manipulation roll then, Dave?
Can I have a dice from Tony? Because I've only got 3. Is this worth? How many dice does he have? Many.
That many dice.
Okay, I've got 1 success. Shall I push that, Tony?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to push.
Okay.
And I get 2 successes in total.
I'm not taking a darkness point because I'm pushing back at you.
I don't think that's going to be good enough somehow, but it's worth a try. Do I get bonus dice for my role playing, Matt?
No.
We deserve it.
Sod.
Take this tag. This mission you are on now is of import to the whole horizon. We cannot be distracted by family matters here. But if you do well with this, I can see you are a fine representative of everything that the Zenithian hegemony means in this great horizon of ours. And you are the future of the horizon. Do well with this mission. Find the emissary before the cyclade, and you will be rewarded. Maybe I will retain you on seeing whether you can even beat our own agents in this investigation that we are currently doing.
Well, if that's as good as it gets for today, Ambassador, I am much obliged.
Yes, thank you for your
the cyclade.
Honesty.
How far away is that? And presumably, was that celebrations for the anniversary of the emissary appearing?
Well, it coincides with the emissary appearing. The cyclade is the end of the year, effectively. And we are 9 days. Or no, we are not 9 days. We started off 9 days before the cyclade. I think we are 5 or
7.
6 away now.
Yeah, okay. But we need to find him before the celebrations, presumably. Well, so the very fact that he's gone, if we found him on the day after the cyclade, why would that matter? Why has he got to be found before the cyclade?
Are you asking this of the ambassador?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He's a little bit touchy now because we've kind of stopped the conversation, but given obviously the primary point is finding the ambassador before or after the cyclade really makes a difference to them, as you can imagine. The emissary, not the ambassador, sorry. Before the cyclade would be good because it's the anniversary of the emissary's arrival on Coriolis, and celebrations were intended. And obviously, as you might imagine, when things don't happen as expected, people get cross. This whole thing with the mystic's disease, things being out of the ordinary. I'm sure you've heard of riots. There was a riot that was started outside the sanatorium, I heard, only yesterday.
That sounds terrible. I don't know how that kind of...
Nurse my black eye.
I have no idea how things like that could... terrible affair.
It's for the good of the horizon, not the really not my own political interests or the interest of anybody in particular. That I say before the cyclade. Of the greatest urgency is finding the emissary themselves before anything happens to the emissary.
Yeah.
But shall we say the finding it before the cyclade would be
preferable.
The rosewater on the baklava.
Understood.
Thank you for your time and your candor, Ambassador.
As far as it went.
Very well. It's been a pleasure having you here. Do well and return. I shall instruct. I shall instruct. Oh God, what's her name? I've forgotten her name.
Vivaria.
Yes, probably.
You're talking about his member of staff that showed us in the first place.
Yes, that one.
Vivaria Ariadne.
Vivaria, yeah. I will instruct Vivaria. I will instruct her to prioritize your visit if you do so next.
Thank you.
The people who'd served you the nuts and drinks now put down their plants again. Make another culture roll, Tony. And
come on, Tony. There's obviously something important here that we're missing.
3 successes.
3 successes.
Yeah.
You finally recognise the plant.
I knew I've seen that somewhere before.
And the plant is a native of Kura, of course, and it's Pelacosia amantum, which is a poisonous plant with razor-sharp leaves. Even the smallest cut from these leaves can be fatal. The servants obviously carry these lethal burdens as a display of the ambassador's power.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't get unnerved by knowing that at the start. I might have been a type more respectful if I had.
Yes, here's a present, a pot plant for you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Cool. Let's depart then, shall we, Yaquob?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's go. Okay, so we need to check out this tag. I know there people have found nothing.
How big is it? Is it like a really small
It's
thing?
like a thumb drive, a USB stick or something. But
Is
obviously
something that
not a USB stick, something from thousands of years in the future.
It's a really futuristic USB stick. So it's USB like 6 or 7 or
Is it something that your data gene can possibly try and analyze?
Well, I think it's, I'll have a look.
So what we're looking for is any kind of signature in the design, or
So where are you doing this?
Well, let's go back down somewhere safe, back down to the Crossroads College. Or
Should we
something.
take the bullets to our
Yeah.
Ammo expert charm, leave it with him, and then go and look at this.
Okay, so you head down towards the Ozone Plaza.
Well, it
And
feels nicer being back on the ring.
that's where your contact is. Let me, I think I can pick a name out of here unless you've got a name you want to say. Give me a moment. Yeah, your chap is
I was going to say Brian Nassar. Who's your brother?
Al Said, shall we call him?
Al Fayed.
Al Said.
Saeed.
And yes, he's a peddler of all sorts of interesting things that you've possibly fenced stuff here. You've bought stuff from him. He pretty much knows everybody in the Ozone Plaza, and he will look at these bullets for you. Do you want to use his facilities to do the data meme? I mean,
we might as well.
Yeah, if we trust him.
How long is he going to take to analyze the bullets for us?
Well, he'll look at it straight away.
Yeah. Okay. So let's wait. Well, let's wait then, and you can do that, Tim. I can't help you, sadly.
Okay, he's got a pretty good computer with him. So, what would have been a -2 roll? I'm going to make a -1 roll.
-1. Okay.
Doing it at Al Said's place.
On the tag. Excuse me.
Okay. I get 1 success there. Is it worth pushing this? Do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a key.
I am going to push this roll and get another 1 success. So that's 2 successes in total.
Okay. Let me just find what you discover about the meme. I've just lost it, and as one of the observers of the last session said, things are spread throughout the thing. Okay. Well, it's difficult. It's not really something you've seen before, but using the computer at Al Said's, you'll notice that it resembles the memes that they use in their warships for attacking other warships, what they call their monastery cruisers.
Who does? Sorry, who?
I say who? The Zalosians.
Zalosians.
Everything points to Zalos.
So it's basically a Zalosian, the same technology that they use to hack enemy ships.
Exactly. Yes. Obviously, it's this one isn't done at range. This one is done at almost contact difference, which is why it's on this tag.
Is there anything in there that gives us a clue to the origin of either the programming or any components?
Zalos.
Anything more specific than Zalos?
No, not really.
Okay.
Al Said looks over your shoulder and says, well, I think you can get such things here in the Ozone Plaza, but they are originally of Zalos origin.
Where can you get them in the Ozone Plaza? Are there multiple places, or is there?
Well, it's a sort of thing. If you were to ask me for one, I could make inquiries. I could find one within a day, but I couldn't necessarily say that this one came from the same source.
By the analysis of it, does it look like it's, I don't know what's the best way of putting it, sort of like military grade Zalos programming on it, or
it's used on warships.
Is this some kind of hack? So basically, I'm just trying to think: is this some guy who's got it, bought it from someplace here, and
bodged it together,
bodged it with his own code, or is this, Zalos fighting code?
Military.
It's not a direct component out of a Zalosian ship.
No.
Somebody conceivably could have got hold of the code and repurposed it to the purpose it is.
But I'm my Zalos bastards, first come scum. Where's that reporter?
You can give her a shout if you want, but meanwhile, Al Said says, "Oh, this is interesting. This round of yours has been handmade. It's a duramite copper alloy, and this does not come from a factory."
Can you tell from looking at it the hallmark of the particular gunsmith who made it?
Is it a skillful construction, or is it a somewhat bodged together thing from by an amateur?
Neither a great artisan of bullets nor an amateur. What's really interesting, though, isn't its origin, but what's happened to it.
Explain.
He swings this great glass lens, brass and glass lens over where it's being held in a little clamp. And with a pointer, he gets you to look through this lens and says, look at this. So here, at the tip, of course, it has been flattened, as bullets often are when they hit their target. Or when they hit, you said this, you found this in a wall?
Yes. Correct.
Right, so you can see this deformation here, but can you see along here? And he points down to the one side of the bullet. There's deformation here as well, which is fascinating. I never see that.
And what does that suggest? Is that something to do with how it hit the thing that it hit?
Or whether it was deflected somehow. Swatted out of the way almost.
Does it look like has it got the same sort of pattern of stress on it that we saw on the floor and the walls?
Did you make any sort of record of that pattern?
Well, I looked at it because I noticed it. I guess, yeah, with whatever we had, we made a record of it, yeah.
We'd have been taking pictures of the crime scene.
My environmental scanner, I guess I might have been using to...
My tablet's probably got a built-in camera, surely.
No, I think you did use your environmental scanner. I seem to remember you saying that, Dave. So our side looks at the images. Now, obviously, this is a lot smaller a surface than the floor and the walls of the thing. So, no, the pattern isn't the same. But yes, it could conceivably have been the same force that did that to the floors of the this residence, and also took this bullet mid-flight and changed its course. So a great push of something.
So that's fine. That's interesting. It doesn't actually tell us anything that we don't know already, I think.
No, I find it fascinating.
I was talking to Yaquob here, but yeah, I mean, I guess Saeed
doesn't
is there.
Give us any clue about who made it or where.
For Saeed's safety, we're not telling him anything else about the investigation.
No.
This is just a bullet we want his analysis on.
So where do you go now to have this conversation?
Well, is that so? Is that everything you can tell us then about this bullet? Do you think?
I'm sorry?
Is that everything you can tell us else about this bullet?
Yeah, I think so.
Any idea where could it have been made? Is there somebody on Coriolis that could have made it that you're aware of? I mean, you know, this entire.
There are a number of
anybody.
suppliers of this sort of bullet. You realise it's a Vulcan round, but it goes silently. So there are all sorts of customers who would like such a thing, and there are all sorts of, I must say, unscrupulous dealers. It's not the sort of thing that I would trade in myself, but more unscrupulous dealers would supply this to rebels and terrorists. Not necessarily here, of course, on Coriolis, where we're always under the watchful eye of the in fact, I would say, and thinking about it harder, that probably no one here would admit to selling it, even to me. I would imagine this was imported onto the vessel.
Okay.
You might want to talk to smugglers if you know any.
Well, we might know one when we get to the next scenario. And our friend in every port talent becomes available again. But until then, I can't think of anybody. Okay, so where does that leave us then, Tone?
We're not sure. We're kind of running out of leads a bit now, aren't we?
Well, you've still got the tunnels or the ducts.
The ducts.
And you've got, as far as I'm aware, the sanatorium, which you were so eager to visit before, but seem less inclined to visit now.
Is there still sort of
you could, if you were talking about
and
smuggling as well,
crowds
Tony,
and
remember
stuff?
you've made friends with the stevedore woman, Sue.
Yes.
She might be able to help you in that regard.
Is there still sort of rioting and crowds and protesting and stuff about going on the streets?
There is a general tenseness on the streets, not constant rioting.
No, okay.
But yes, people have been put out, first of all, by the disappearances of the various mystics, and secondly, by the disappearance of the emissary itself.
Because I feel, Yaquob, our investigation has turned somewhat from finding Nor to finding the emissary. We may well find that one and the same objectives are achieved.
Yes, it feels like they're probably linked in some way.
Maybe our next thing should be to go to the sanatorium and see what we can find out there.
Yeah, maybe.
We had our suspicion that Nor might have been taken there. And to say we're kind of running,
especially if there's
definitely Zalosian influence in this.
Yeah, definitely there are strong implications that the guys who took Nur are the same guys who took the emissary.
Yeah. In which case, going to the sanatorium is probably an urgent priority then, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, what should our approach be? Are we going to come up with some ruse and just walk in the front door, or are we going to try and sneak in and stealth our way around?
How busy is the sanatorium? Is it somewhere that it would be impossible for us to sneak into?
It's a public place. You could
could we just go in and walk around in the public areas without really being noticed?
It's welcoming to everybody. People visit relatives there. It's not particularly got security on the front, except when there are a bunch of guards outside stopping rioters getting in,
holding the crowd off.
On a normal day, it doesn't particularly, keep itself closed.
Right.
There are, of course, procedures that one goes through. One visits the desk, a little bit like visiting the ambassador, but you could probably avoid those if you wanted to. It might be more difficult.
I would want to avoid those. Or
you could just go with the judge's authority and say,
that might set a few hairs running, mightn't it?
Yes.
No more hairs than visiting the ambassador of the Zenithian hegemony. That's going to set all the hairs that are possibly running.
Well, who knows that though?
Well,
Unless the
no,
ambassador's going to, or his staff are going to tell the hares that we were there. The hares might not know.
The hair. Which hairs are these then? No, well, I think there's a fair chance that there is a Zelosian infiltrator in the ambassador's circle somewhere, because otherwise, how did they get to the ambassador to do all of this stuff? And how do they find out whatever it is to blackmail him with? So I think we should assume that the Zelosians, the bad guys, know we
went there.
Whether or not they know why we were there is another question.
Tony, I think it's only fair to remind you that you think he's lying about that incident, or dissembling at the very least.
I kind of assumed that was okay. So the blackmail, he's lying about being blackmailed. Is that what
you didn't get enough successes for me to be really definite, but
that's where we're concerned.
Possibly, although I kind of at the time assumed that he was just dissembling because he didn't want to admit particularly that he had been blackmailed. So that was how I interpreted that. Maybe that wasn't the right interpretation.
Okay.
Oh, that's exactly the impression he wanted you to have. So in fact, he wasn't lying at all. No.
Okay.
So maybe that was the incorrect interpretation, and in fact he's in on the whole thing then and wasn't being blackmailed at all.
But
he did give you the data meme.
Yeah. What advantage would the Zenithian hegemony get by the emissary not being around? Is there a vote in the council coming up on something important?
Because the emissary doesn't get to vote on the council, does he?
No, he's an observer.
But
is he influential?
He might be an influencer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a vote coming up? Can we do a bit of research? Is there a vote coming up that's the Zenithian hegemony and
okay, you can do that bit of research. It will probably take a considerable amount of time.
By considerable, what do you mean?
As in, I'll just read the book and make sure that there's not something I've forgotten. At least until the next session, I think.
I think we should do that, but I do wonder whether there is any urgent imperative to action around the sanatorium.
Yeah, it's beginning to feel like that, isn't it?
But
how big is the sanatorium?
Do we just walk in? And
it's pretty
around?
huge, actually. It's quite a big building.
Quite a big complex.
The building is quite big and complex, but also it's in gardens. It's got quite a lot of garden complex around it. Coriolis is just huge, and every location they tell you is how big it is in various ways, just to remind you how big Coriolis is. Yeah. It's built out of a generation ship, for God's sake. It's huge. It's not, it's not it's a big hospital, effectively.
Yeah. I wonder if we just go along there on the cover story that we are looking for some friends that we believe have been admitted here, and have a look around and see if we spot anybody we recognise. Because I saw those people up close, the guardsmen.
Yeah. I've seen them on the video feed as well.
So we can go and have a look. At the very least, we can use it as a recce.
Yeah. Because it's a big place. I mean, they could be anywhere. There could be kind of secret wings underground.
Yeah.
And sections or secret floors that we won't necessarily be able to find easily.
Yeah. If we get challenged, we could go there with a cover story that we're on a missing person mission, and we've been led to believe that this missing person has been admitted under a false name that we don't know into the sanatorium. So therefore we know what they look like. We need to go and find them if we get challenged.
Yeah. That
Let's
seems reasonable.
Whilst we're at what's his name? Saeed's Al Saeed's. I'm going to pick up a couple of reloads from my Vulcan pistol and my carbine, because I'm feeling like we're going into the lion's den a little bit here.
Okay, I can't remember quite how much they cost.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Oshain. I'll get a couple for my phone called Cricket as well.
Al Saeed is very generous to do it. Only factory made, though. He winks. Factory made rounds. Very well. So you go back into Saeed, because of course you were just having that conversation without him knowing.
And that might just have been in the corner of the room. I mean, this surely he's not. You know, we could be in the kitchen.
Information has value. You probably don't want to talk around Saeed.
Yes.
He is, of course, your friend, and you can trust him. But he is other people's friends as well, and they pay better. He will expect you to be clearing the tab that you've worked up as well, Dave. Oshain. Tony always pays, but you're always asking for credit. I feel.
No, I'm all right. I pay. I've got money now.
Okay, so let's clear that tab. Okay, he does that deal, all in good nature, of course, but he clears your tab for you and then bids you farewell, and obviously he'd be very happy to see you again with any ordnance needs.
Excellent. So I'm going to take 4 reloads for both my carbine and my pistol. I think that's...
Are the cost of the reloads in the core book somewhere?
They are. We'll sort it out.
I think it's 50 burr each, I think, but we can check.
Yeah.
Something like that. We'll check offline. That's fine. I got enough money to cover it. Now I've taken Noah's money. I mean,
these rounds, they're so very expensive. Just 1,000 burr. I'm robbing myself giving you that price, but I see you have the money to pay.
I'm not showing him the money. Blimey. Right. Should we go and do a little recce around the sanatorium?
Let's do that, yes.
Okay, well, it is 4 minutes to 10, so I'm suggesting that will be...
You pause there.
The pause. We'll do the sanatorium next time.
Okay.
Okay, so
cool.
Thank you to our listeners, including Mattia Compan, who said hello to us on the chat.
Cool.
And we will return next week at the same Coriolis time on the same Coriolis YouTube channel. That's not great, though, is it?
No, we need to